In a viral clip, Bill Maher roasts Neil deGrasse Tyson, and it's epic. Bill Maher may not be that great on Trump. I think he's certainly got Trump derangement syndrome. But when it comes to free speech and wokeness, he's been calling it out more and more and more. And I want to say, he's got his redemption arc at least. We all know that clip where Dennis Prager went on Real Time and said they're putting tampons in the men's room. And Bill Maher was like, no, they're not. They're not doing. Oh, whoopsie. Turns out Dennis was right. Bill Maher has finally come around on this. Take a look. This clip's amazing. I want to play it for you. Neil deGrasse Tyson famously came out recently saying there's not two genders. Why? Because this dude lives or dies by what the public is willing to accept. He is the worst of the worst. People like Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's like, hey, look, I'm known for being science. You put me on your show and I'll say whatever you want me to say. That is not science. And that's what Neil deGrasse Tyson represents. But let me play for you this clip from Myth Informed. These people are effing nuts, and you should be calling them out. Bill Maher blasts Neil deGrasse Tyson for placating to the woke ideology instead of challenging it. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you this clip. This is from Bill Maher's podcast, and this is a long time coming.
Surely there's a portfolio of jokes that would still work on a college campus. Surely.
I would hope not. From what maybe some college campuses, the ones you read about are fucking insane.
You've given up on an entire generation, and you don't know how to make them last.
I have given up on any place that doesn't even remotely attempt to believe in free speech and thinks that anything that they hear that they don't like, that they don't agree with, is violence. These people are fucking nuts, and you should be calling them out. Somebody like you, who has standing with kids, should be not joining them.
When there's a science
you're doing what
to it.
That's a lie. I do when it's a science question. No, you don't. Neil deGrasse Tyson famously came out and went nuts about biological males competing in women's sports. We had a video last week. I tweeted about it. I deleted the tweets where a biological male playing on a field hockey team pitched the ball, smacked a girl in the face, knocked her teeth out. That's at least what's been reported. And at first I was like, dude, if these girls knowingly choose to play on these teams with males and something like this happens, what am I complaining about? If you're not complaining, I'm not complaining. But then someone said they didn't actually report the individual was trans. And hey, man, I mean, that's says a lot to the individual for passing, as they call it. But I think that these young girls have a right to know and then choose if they're going to compete on these teams. Neil deGrasse Tyson is an anti-science guy. This was just a couple months ago when he was saying males should compete on female teams. Then he has the nerve to say, when it's a science question, let's play more.
Doing what parents do. You're taking the path of least resistance and therefore hurting the kids and yourself. Parents ruin both their lives. They ruin their fucking spoiled kids' lives, and they ruin their own lives because the kids rule the roost. So that's what you're doing on a national level.
I'm feeling more like on the porch. Get off my lawn.
Really? I feel like we're in the barbershop.
Neil deGrasse Tyson is, in my opinion, one of the worst. Take a look at this. Tyson discussed transgenderism on Trigonometry, a free speech YouTube show run by British satirist Konstantin Kyson. Kyson pressed Tyson on criticism posed by the idea of biological males competing on women's teams. At one point, Tyson spoke in an elevated tone, appearing to state that the entire sport infrastructure should be reconsidered to ensure inclusion and fairness for all. There was, I can't remember what it was. I think it was like jiu-jitsu or something. A sporting event where the podium, first, second, and third, was all male, but it was women's sports. The left argues simultaneously that it's a patriarchy and that there's no such thing as gender, in which case patriarchy can't exist, in which case Hillary Clinton is a man. I mean, what's the argument? If patriarchy is just the establishment forces and Hillary Clinton represents that, and there is no biological gender, then Hillary Clinton would be patriarchy and a man, in which case matriarchy can't exist at all. It's nonsense, but this is the game they play. So it's good to see Bill Maher roast this guy, but I got another one for you. This one's real good. Joseph Massie tweets, "Two worlds collide." Antifa guys tells two pro-Hamas women that Billboard Chris is trying to tell children they're not allowed to be trans. And the Muslim woman says they're not. Whoa, that's right. See, this is why I said not all of the pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas people are far leftists. It's all over the place, man. I mean, for better or for worse, but take a look at this clip.
You know about half these kids
trying to propagate anti-LGBTQ propaganda. He's trying to tell children that they are not allowed to be trans.
Yeah, they're not. They're not. Suck your mum, bro. You have black nail polish on as a man, bro. Stop talking. Stop talking. In some religions, you can't do that. Yeah, you have to respect that decision. But in religion, yeah.
They chase this guy out. This is crazy.
Some religions they accept that, but in our religion you can't do that. So we don't agree with your faith. Thank you. What religion are you? What religion are you? Catholic. What are you then? What do you even identify yourself as something, my bro? What do you identify as? Go on.
little coward
What do you
wearing his mask.
identify
He
as?
doesn't have a religion.
What do you identify
He just
yourself
wants to
as?
cause mayhem.
Yeah, you don't have listen. Where you from? Where you from?
There he goes.
No, wait,
Then he
what do
just
you
leaves.
identify yourself as?
This dude, this far leftist in a mask, shows up and says, this guy's trying to claim that kids can't be trans. And the pro-Palestine activists say he's right. It's a funny thing about all this. I got to be completely honest. You've got Israel. In Israel, you have LGBTQ people. In fact, there are people from Palestine who get asylum, refugee status in Israel. They're coming from the West Bank or from Gaza because they're LGBTQ. And Israel says, you are good here. And you know what the issue probably is? Israel knows that if you're LGBT in Gaza, they'll lock you up. What's the real concern? I'm not here to litigate and adjudicate all of the history of that place. What I'm saying is Israel's concern, we don't want extremists coming into Israel and causing problems, right? Some people argue it's just like racist or ethnicist or whatever you want to call it. No, I think it's just like, if we don't trust you, we don't care, not happening. But when someone comes to them and says, I'm LGBT and they will kill me if I stay there, they'll say, we believe you. And we believe you will probably do your best to help us here in Israel. So that's the funny thing. It's the weirdest thing to me that the right is opposed to all this stuff, yet they're defending Israel, which is more defensive of the stuff. You know, it's a really interesting circumstance. But I think what it really comes down to is the right is more in support of individual liberties. The left says and does whatever the mob or the cult says. This dude in the black mask defending LGBTQIA+ to pro-Palestinian activists clearly has no idea what he is talking about. And because of this, he goes to Muslims and says LGBTQ, and they're like, no way, dude, no way. The dispute that is happening with Palestine and Israel is really interesting because it is deeply, in a lot of ways, left and right, but it is shattering everything. It really is. There are many on the right who are now going full criticism of Israel. People who used to be on the left, now on the right, now they're critical of Israel, but they've always been critical of Israel. And there's people who are pro-Palestine who used to be, I already said that. There are people who are pro-Israel who are actually very liberal, but they're like, but I think Israel, it's like everything's got mixed up. But I'll tell you this, those of us that tried our best to operate on principles and our moral standards are doing just fine. You see, from the get-go, my moral positions have mostly been the same. Individual liberties, freedom, free speech, all of that stuff. Now, certainly I've been wrong about things. I'd say, like 8 years ago, I was like, there's probably some common sense gun control, blah, blah, blah. And I was not educated enough on the issue. And then I had some arguments from people philosophical. And I said, no, you're right. I'm 2A all the way. You know, and that's not maybe, I don't know if that's a moral position. I think that idea was always in line with my morals. Thus, I was willing to accept it. But for a lot of these people on the left, they never had one. They never had a moral position. I do think the people on the right have a moral opinion and a moral position, but I think the issue of Israel-Palestine was just not prominent in the media, so it didn't really come up that much. Some of these people who were Trump supporters, it was America first. So when the U.S. is funding Israel and Israel's bombing Palestine, that lines up perfectly with, we don't want to be involved in foreign war. Granted, I do think a lot of people have Israel derangement syndrome. But that being said, this is the perfect example of the shattering. And I think Bill Maher plays a role in that. So I'm glad to see Bill Maher calling out Neil deGrasse Tyson. It is time to shatter this machine. Left with Cenk Uygur on the Culture War podcast. And, you know, he's like, more leftists got to come on these shows. We've already got more people on the left wanting to come on these shows, and we're going to break down these issues. An interesting thing happened. I think I have is the clip here? Yep. From Billboard Chris. He says, keep Stephen Marsh away from children. Let me play this for you. Yeah. Because what you were saying is children should have access to adult content.
Well, what I would say, I mean, what I genuinely believe is, I believe in letting people read whatever the hell they want.
I don't think 12-year-olds should learn about blowjobs.
I totally disagree.
You think you should
100%.
You think they should have a book? You see, this is the problem.
No. Well, just like someone as a parent.
What about
I think hiding information from children, let me tell you something. Adults are not smart enough to know what children need to know.
Okay, I'll pause him right there. He made his point. I mostly let him speak, and he's wrong. But what I was going to say just then, this is the problem. The point is, in his worldview, the cat's out of the bag. There's no point in even trying to control it. That, to me, is insane. This world is chaos we seek to control. Otherwise, if that was the position they all took, it's like, well, guns exist. Might as well just let people do. No, that's not the position they take. They say, we're going to try and ban it no matter what, even though it doesn't work. And it's like, wait, what? The cat's out of the bag. You got to let kids read it. But guns, even though they can be 3D printed, you see the problem. When it comes to what the left and the right is, this exemplifies it very, very well. This guy says, yeah, you can't stop kids from learning about it anyway, so why not just give them the book? I say, no. Guns may be ubiquitous, but I'm not going to hand a child a gun. You should not do that. That being said, there are actually circumstances where legal, you can. Like you're going hunting, you're teaching a kid, and there's training, and that's important stuff too. So my point ultimately is there are also appropriate times to give certain information to children. Let's break this down. Is there an appropriate time to hand a child a, like Barrett M82? Depends on child, but probably not. 16, maybe, right? You're 16. It's like you can we're going to teach you how to use a 50 BMG if you're getting proper training and it's supervised, safety gear, everything's perfect and done in a legal and safe way. Yeah. Is there a time when, say, a 16-year-old should get a book explaining certain things about, certain things, right? I don't think you ever give an RPG or have someone actually fire some artillery shells unless they're actually adults getting military training to go into combat. And then when it comes to adult materials, there are some things that are not sex ed, they're kink. So should a 12-year-old be handed a full auto? No. What happened? Little girl was given this full auto. I think it was an Uzi. And she fires and the recoil sends her arm flying. She shot her dad. Not appropriate for kids. Should you give a 12-year-old an adult book? No, not appropriate for kids. But could you give a 12-year-old girl something like a bolt action 22 or something? Do they make those? I'm assuming they do. Or, like a single breech loading, light round or whatever for training purposes, such as maybe small game or birdshot. Yeah, that might be okay. It really going to come down to what's legal and safe. And I'm not a gun expert. My point is, it's varying degrees, man. If the distinction here is, I think not everything is appropriate for kids, and they argue some are and some aren't, well, now you can see the shattering of the worldviews. But anyway, it is good to see Bill Maher calling out Neil deGrasse Tyson. I think we're winning this one, and I think standards matter. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimcastIRL. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.